Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Metro East Unitarian Universalist congregation, and greetings to anybody who's watching us remotely. This is a welcoming religious community, and we are so glad that you are here. I'm Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall. My pronouns are she or they, and I am delighted to be here as the minister. I'm so happy to see everybody here today. Our sanctuary seems to be a little chillier than usual, which I'm appreciative of, but I think a lot of folks are also a little needs a little warmth. So coffee hour today, we can have extra hot coffee and feel a little better. I think we're going to turn the AC up another degree or two. It's a little hard to tell because when bodies start coming in, it warms up. So it's kind of a hot, cold. Yay, air conditioning, right? Thank God we at least have air conditioning. Anyway, I hope that you will enjoy the service today and also take some time in our coffee hour to reach out to somebody that you don't know or don't know as well and offer them a welcome. Everyone, let us enjoy our prelude this morning because we are Unitarian Universalists. And if you know it, want to sing along, go for it. What a beautiful reminder to each of us that we get an opportunity each and every day to plant blessings and seeds of hope in our own lives. An important ritual in our faith is the lighting of our chalice. We have many different explanations and interpretations of this, including the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, the flame of hope. One of the things that I find to be the most meaningful part of this ritual is the fact that in it we include our children in the very heart of what it is that makes us Unitarian Universalists. This morning, I want to invite Trudy to come up. She's one of our newer folks, and we're going to light our chalice together. So I invite you to go ahead and join with me as we say our unison words projected on the screen. There we go. We light this chalice today as a symbol of love at the center of all we think, feel, and do. We light this chalice in hope for the future of our species, that we may learn to live in harmony with each other and ourselves, creating beloved community. Thank you so much, Trudy. Will you join with me as you're willing and able in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Spirit of beloved community, as we gather in this place that is our home, we ask that each of us be granted the self-awareness to know what is holding us back, that we be open to the ways we need to change and grow, and that we may be assured always of the love and respect of those who gather here, as we build together our spiritual community, one right relationship at a time. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you all to take a moment and greet somebody that you don't know as well and make a new connection, and then we will sing our first hymn, number 1012. Hello.
Where we know God will offer my name, but in the book, this one of them minute, good enough.
It's number 1012 in the teal hymnal. It's a tradition here at the Metro East Unitarian Universalist Congregation to place each service within the larger values that we as Unitarian Universalists hold dear. This week, I'm lifting up again the values of interdependence, especially the emphasis on how we are covenanting with each other to create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice. Of generosity, where we're covenanting to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources with one another. Generosity as a value goes far beyond money into being with one another in what Martin Buber would have called the I-thou relationship, the sharing of oneself with another. And equity, where we've covenanted to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. These values are rooted in and centered on the ideals of covenant, where the emotions and values of the parties are important along with the actions. Covenant is more than a list of rules to follow. It is a way of viewing the world in which the maintenance of relationships The maintenance of interdependence is crucial to its success. Last week and this week, we're looking at our own Right Relationships covenant and how it can be a tool for our spiritual growth, both as individuals and as a congregation. The shared values are how we gather together. They're what we stand for. When people ask us, what are you as Unitarian Universalists? These are what we should be able to tell them. Our kids, of course, have a wonderful reference now. I don't know if you all have heard about Jet Pig. But the new values are acrostically Jet Pig. Think it through. It's kind of cool. So if you see flaming flying pigs, now you know that those represent our values in minor ways. But in truth, as funny as that idea might be, it is hard to cultivate values in a vacuum. It is easy to live alone because then nobody gets under your skin. Nobody makes you grow. Nobody makes you change. When you're an island unto yourself, nothing else ever interferes. But the truth is that the hard work of humanity happens in relationship. As we come together, struggle, misunderstandings, even conflict are a part of our work as a community. Our work is to learn not to not have conflict. We're different people who come from different backgrounds, and at some point, some of you will be wrong and disagree with me. That was a joke, if you didn't get that.
That's a joke, though.
That's right. That's what I just said, yes. That was a joke. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how much we care about one another, simply the fact that we've had different lives to this point means that there will be points at which we disagree. So learning how to fight fair and learning how to respect the other person, even when we reach a point of disagreement, is important. That's what will help us build a community that will last through the ages. As Unitarian Universalists, we may or may not individually have a belief in an afterlife that includes a heavenly realm, but we do, as a community, as a faith, have a belief in creating heaven right here on earth. And we can do that through these principles of right relationships. Together, we can make the world we want to live in. As part of making that world, we share with one another in our joys and sorrows. We come together to lift one another up when we're having a hard time, and we come together to encourage one another in the good things. Today, I invite all who wish to participate. You're welcome to come forward and take a stone or several and place them in the bowl, and then return back to your seat around the back. If you have a mobility challenge or other issues that make it hard for you, just raise your hand and someone else will be more than happy to take your stones and place them in the water for you, for we are one community. Let us be now in a spirit of prayer and meditation. So last week, for those of you who weren't here, or it's just been a busy week and you've forgotten, I know that feeling, I talked a lot about the brain and how stress short circuits our ability to make higher rational decisions. And so I wanted to kind of give a refresher or an update for folks that might not have had a chance to see that. And so today's video for the kids is all about why the brain does what it does when we get upset. So we're going to watch a video that's good for the kids and for us, and then we will sing them out to our E.
Kids want to know. Imagine that you really want to play soccer at lunchtime, but when the bell rings, you can't find your shoes. When you finally get out to the field, the teams have been picked and it's too late for you to play. Maybe you got so mad that this small problem became a big problem in an instant. When we lose control of our emotions like this, we can call it flipping your lid, kind of like the way a pot might do if it was too full and too hot. A little while later, after you've cooled down, you might even feel sad when you realize that when you had a big reaction to a little problem, you could have hurt someone's feelings. What if I told you that this happens to everyone? Your parents, friends, teachers, and everyone else you know can flip their lid and lose control of their emotions sometimes. We all need to work on managing our feelings. Have you ever wondered why we can have such a hard time keeping our emotions under control? It can be really tough being a kid these days. There's just so much going on every day, at home, at school, even after school. Sometimes it's hard to keep a lid on things, and we act in ways that are not kind or caring, even though we don't mean to be hurtful. There are so many situations that we encounter every day that can cause our emotions to bubble up. Maybe you felt upset or frustrated when you were working on a problem or activity at school and just can't seem to get it right. Maybe something unexpected or embarrassing happened to you in front of your friends. Maybe you had something important to say, but didn't get a chance to say it. These and many, many more situations can cause both kids and adults to flip their lids. So why does this even happen? Well, it has to do with the way our amazing human brains work to help keep us safe. This is your brain, the part of your body that controls everything you do. Let's take a closer look at the parts of the brain and how they can work together to help us keep a lid on things. The brain is a pretty complicated organ, so we're going to use our hand to help us visualize what's happening up there. Let's imagine that our brain has an upstairs and a downstairs. Here, where our thumb is called the midbrain. This is where our emotions and memories are created and stored. Below that is your brainstem. The brainstem controls the things our bodies do that we don't have to think about, like breathing. It also controls our automatic reactions to certain situations. For example, if you touch a cup with hot tea in it and it's too hot, your downstairs brain feels the pain and will pull your hand away to stop you from getting burnt. It's an automatic reaction. You don't have to stop and think about what to do. Or imagine you're out on a hike and a bear wanders onto the path. Your brain doesn't stop and think, what kind of bear is it? Is it friendly? Your downstairs brain notices that you feel scared, it takes charge, and in a split second decides whether or not you should fight, fly, another word for run away, or freeze. Because of the way our downstairs brain reacts to these situations, we can think of it as our emotional brain, because it reacts instantly without needing to think things through. It's always ready to take charge in any situation to help keep you safe. So if this is our downstairs brain, then this part where the back of our hand and fingers are can be seen as our upstairs brain. It's called the cerebral cortex. This part of our brain helps us think logically, act with kindness, and think about how others might be feeling. It's also the problem-solving part of our brain. It helps us to think of possible solutions to a problem and decide which one is best. The upstairs brain is our thinking brain. Your upstairs and downstairs brain don't work alone. Your brain is set up so that the upstairs and downstairs brain can communicate with itself. It sends messages from section to section all the time about what our bodies feel and need. Let's take a closer look at our brain fist. Where our fingertips are is the logic and reasoning part of the brain that springs into action when we have a problem to solve, and usually it does a great job of doing it. But sometimes it can have a hard time solving a problem if the emotional brain and thinking brain can't communicate well enough. This can happen if your emotions get too overwhelming and your downstairs brain decides that this situation might be dangerous, even if it isn't really. And we all know what happens when our downstairs brain thinks you're in danger. It triggers our fight, flight, or freeze reflex. Our emotions start to bubble up, and then suddenly everything boils over. We flip our lids. This can look like a scary, angry reaction, or it might be crying or running away from a problem. Now that we've flipped our lids, see how far away our fingertips are from the midbrain? When our lids are flipped, our upstairs and downstairs brain can't talk to each other. Our emotions have become too strong, and we can't think clearly and can't solve the problem in a peaceful way. So what can we do to stop us from flipping our lid? Well, it all starts with realizing that we're about to flip our lid, and then turning down the heat so it doesn't happen. Remember that soccer game we talked about at the beginning of the video, and you were really upset and didn't get to play? Maybe you felt your tummy rumble, or you felt your face getting hot? Did your heart start to pound, and did you feel your hands start to clench? Were you frustrated, disappointed, and angry? These types of strong feelings are all indicators that you might be close to flipping your lid. If you feel this start to happen, it's a good idea to walk away, take some deep breaths, and look for an adult to talk to before you flip your lid. It might be a parent, grandparent, coach, teacher, or another trusted adult nearby. They can help you with strategies to solve the problem once you've calmed down enough for your upstairs brain to be ready to do some peaceful problem solving. If you do flip your lid, those same trusted adults can offer you some time and space to cool down before you start to problem solve together. Once your upstairs brain is back in charge, you can share your story and get some help. Using I statements can help you to tell an adult what you need. I need a hug. I need you to listen to what I have to say. I need another chance. I need some alone time. I need a walk. I need you to see that I can do well. Learning more about the brain and how it works can really help us to understand our emotions and to be peaceful problem solvers. When we listen to our bodies and our brains, we can turn the challenges of being a kid into opportunities to learn and grow. Thanks for watching! If you're interested in learning more about the brain and how to manage emotions, some resources are linked in the description box below.
All right, now we get to sing you guys out to RE. Our next hymn this morning is in the gray hymnal or on the wall. It's number 300, With Heart and Mind. Well, good morning again, everybody. both those who are here and those who are online now or who will watch it later. Last week and this week, as I said, we're looking at our Right Relationships Covenant that we have here in our church. And this is a tool that the whole church voted on and agreed would kind of be the document that guides our behavior as a church. We used it first to guide the process as we made the decision to sell the old building and move, and it was really a decision that was full of big emotions. We used it to just guide us through our response to masking, which was also a choice that has had some really big emotions for people. And now it is time to dust it off once more and to really dig down deep into it, because we're making the decision in just a couple of weeks about what land to buy and build on. Our Mason brothers who own this place have been phenomenal. I have nothing but good things to say about them. They have been wonderful to us, opening their doors, letting us be here for a fraction of the price that we would have paid in any other setting. But we've been here for a year, and they're kind of ready. They're kind of ready for us to take the next step, and we're ready to take the next step because our sanctuary is getting kind of snug, which is fantastic. What a wonderful problem to have. We have too many people. This is a great problem for a church to have, especially in the world we live in today. But these decisions, no matter how good they are also hard. And when we tried back in June to have this discussion, a lot of emotions came up real fast. And so we took a step back and we said, okay, let's slow the process down and let's really dig into this. And I made the decision that we were going to go through this again, and we were going to really look at what it is we've covenanted with ourselves and with each other. Now, last week we talked about, how hard it is to hold on to the right thing when we're upset. And I really loved that video because it explained it on a kid's level, just how hard it is to keep control. The downstairs brain has its agenda. It is going to keep you safe from the bears and the tigers and the wasp nests, but it has no concept of living in community or being with people for a lifetime or helping you through these things, right? All it sees is fight and flee. That's all it cares about, is making that split-second reaction to danger. So the problem is that it's really hard when we have an emotional decision to make to stay on track. Now, it's even harder for those of us that have trauma in our past or chronic illnesses that impact our body's energy and our ability to be present for these kind of discussions, or neurodiversity. Our brains might literally be hardwired in a way that handles this differently. So it's really even more complex in a church like ours, where we don't just expect people to fit one mold, but where we're deliberately inclusive and expansive, and we want everyone to have a comfort level, and we're coming from all these different places. So it's so hard to stay calm, and it's so hard to return to calm, and we know that. So we also know that what's crucial is to practice now, right? It's crucial to practice in the easy times so that in the hard times, you know what you're doing. It is not do that triple, quadruple, back, front, side, up, down, defying gravity for 10 seconds at a time sort of deal without years of dedication and practice. And if you asked her how many times she fell and got bruised up practicing these, right? I'm pretty sure the answer would be a heck of a lot. And it's easy for us to remember that with physical stuff sometimes, but we forget that that's applicable to emotional stuff as well. So for those of us in a relationship with another human being, and I'm not just talking like with a romantic relationship, I'm talking about with any other human being on this planet, right? You're gonna bruise each other emotionally. It's because human beings trip and we stumble and we fall and we stub our toes and we do all kinds of terrible things and we flip our lids a lot because of this whole limbic brain thing. And it takes a lifetime, or maybe more than one lifetime, to overcome this enough that it's not a constant habit. So the way to overcome it is not just to throw up your hands. A lot of people do this, and I see this a lot in different folks today. They like to throw up their hands and go, oh, well, I have so much trauma. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. You have trauma. I'm not denying your trauma. Your trauma is real, and it's valid, and what you feel about that's great. What are you doing about it? Because acknowledging a problem is one step. Taking action to fix or to overcome or to help compensate for the problem is another step. And sometimes folks aren't ready, right? Like, you can't help somebody if they don't want it. For anyone who's been around folks in recovery, you know that until that person is ready, it doesn't matter how bad things are for them. It doesn't matter where they're at in their own life. Until that person is ready, there's nothing that can be done. And the same is true with our own emotions. Until we are ready to make those steps, to repair those relationships, to be willing to be vulnerable, even though we may get bruised in the process, these right relationships covenants will just be pieces of paper. And this is hard. And I'm not denying in any way, shape, or form that it's more hard for some of us than others. It's going to be more difficult for some of us than others. That is just the reality because of who you are and the backgrounds you come from and the traumas you've endured. And I do not want anyone to think that I am taking that lightly, because I am not. But I also want us to know that creating this community where we can agree and disagree and still love each other is the work of being Unitarian Universalist. So I had a call yesterday from a dear friend, and they're struggling because they're trying to work with churches to do things as a nonprofit, and the churches keep shooting them down. And the thing is that for the majority of churches in the world today, all they really want is people to show up on Sunday and give them money. They want numbers. They want numbers in the budget, and they want numbers in the pews. And they've lost sight of what they were supposed to be doing. You know, Jesus had an agenda. It's very clear if you read the Gospels that Jesus had an agenda, and his agenda was to transform the world into what he believed his Father wanted it to be. A place of equality, a place of justice, a place of joy, a place where children were welcomed. Like, he had an agenda. And very shortly after his death, the church became a bureaucratic place because it got co-opted by empire. We, as Unitarian Universalists, have tried to come back and say, okay, we want that community. We want to create that sort of gospel world, in a sense, where people are welcome. Now, we've wound up going against most traditional Christian churches, both because of their beliefs and also because of their actions, you know? They hated on queer people, and we said, no, that's not who we are. We're not going to hate folks. We're going to be those folks. We're going to welcome those folks. A lot of times they struggled with neurodiversity, and we said, no, we're going to welcome those folks, and on it goes. But the reality is that when we come together, we have to have a purpose greater than just being here on Sunday. If all we're doing is patting ourselves on the back because we're here, we're not going to change the world. And folks, all you have to do is listen to the news for about 0.01 seconds to realize that there's a lot of change that needs to happen out there. This election cycle, and I do not know for the life of me, I have no idea how I got on Ted Cruz's texting list. Okay, but this week alone, I got like 50 separate texts to give his campaign money, and I'm thinking to myself, somebody is wasting an awful lot of ad dollars on this, okay? And you know, the things that they're proclaiming they want, right? I got one yesterday that said, Project 2025 is great. Oh yeah. And it was all about like how they're gonna take back America, and they're gonna put everybody where they belong. And on and on and on. And I'm literally nauseous, right? First of all, because how in the heck did my number end up on this list? And second of all, the thought process that people in pulpits today are telling their congregations that that's the world they want, that that's the world they should live for. And I'm standing here in my congregation saying that is the antithesis of the world we want. Now, I'm willing to throw down and fight anybody else in a collar at this point, because I will say that Jesus is a lot more on my side because I've read the Gospels. So even though we may not be the most Jesus-y congregation out there in terms of we don't read from the Gospels every week, we don't have baptisms unless you want one, we don't, we're not into that stuff, right? But I will tell you, Jesus said a lot of things about being rich and how that isn't a way to get to heaven. He said a lot of things about treating children nicely, cutting Medicaid for hundreds of thousands of children. You know what Jesus said about that? He said, I'm totally off script, I'm sorry, Alex, but what Jesus said, he said it is better for you to put a millstone around your neck and throw yourself in the ocean now. That is what he told people who treat children badly. Jesus had an agenda. And I like to think, even though I have left anything remotely Christian behind, I like to think that I'm still following that agenda. Because that agenda is worth following. That agenda fits the values that I believe in. A world where people are treated equally. Where it doesn't matter what your skin color is. Where it doesn't matter what gender you were born as. Where it doesn't matter whether you have lots of money in your bank account or no money in your bank account. You are welcome in the community because you're a human being and you matter. Where each and every one of us with our own issues and problems and traumas and idiosyncrasies and neurodiversities, we're welcome. And not just that we're welcome, but we're given the tools to build better relationships with ourselves, because you have to love yourself before you can love your neighbor, right? That's a step that a lot of people don't have yet. You got to love yourself before you can love your neighbor. So you're given the tools, and this Right Relationships Covenant is helping to give us the tools to do that. There, now I'm back on script. So page 1 of this, and I've got a bunch of extra copies. So if anybody wants them, I've got them, I can give them to you. But page 1 is what you're covenanting with yourself to do. You're covenanting with yourself to know your stuff, to know the stuff that's causing problems in your life. And you're covenanting with yourself to get help. Not because you're bad. There's no shame. Whatever has happened in your past, it's not your fault. You do not deserve trauma. No human being deserves trauma. Okay? But you deserve to get help because you're a person. And people deserve to have good lives. So you deserve to get help because you're a person. And you deserve good things. You deserve to be aware of your emotions. You deserve to get the professional help and then to stretch out that hand to the next person. You deserve a community where you can trust that the other person is doing their best. Nobody here is out to get one another. That's something I can guarantee. Nobody in this community has it in for each other. We're too small in terms of how do I put this? We're not powerful people, We're not billionaires. We don't have private jets. We're not superstars in the rock world. We don't have direct lines to the White House. We're people. And we're just doing our part to make the world a little better where we are. And that's the whole point. That really is the whole point of religion, is make the world a little bit better where you are. And if enough religion did that, the world would be a lot better. So the whole idea is that the congregation, everybody here, we're all broken in some way, shape, or form. Physically, mentally, emotionally, all the above, right? But when we come here, we're covenanting that I deserve better, so I'm going to treat myself with that dignity, and then I'm going to extend that dignity to other people, and I'm going to believe that they want good things for themselves too. So if something comes across as cross or mean or upsetting, I'm gonna take a pause and I'm gonna say, you know what? I don't think they meant it that way. I'm gonna covenant that I don't think they meant it that way. And that is so countercultural. Because my God, the world today is sue everybody for everything all the time. Don't say anything to anybody because it's all gonna be held against you. So to be in a community where we're actively seeking to give the other person the benefit of the doubt. And being able to trust takes time. This isn't something that you're going to do perfectly on day one, right? You offer a little bit of trust, and then you back up, and then a little bit more, and then back up, and then your trust gets hurt, so then you run away, and then you come back a little more. I'm reading a book about cats. And cats are fascinating because they've kind of domesticated themselves. And they're only a little bit domesticated. Like dogs are nothing like wolves, right? You put a chihuahua and a wolf in the same room and there's like nothing similar between the two, okay? But if you take an African wildcat and your basic shelter cat and you stick them in the same room, they're essentially the same thing. And the reason for that is because cats were just doing their thing and they decided, hey, this human socialization thing, it works, let's do it. And so they went in and they domesticated themselves. But we all know that a cat, if it's not treated well by humans, will revert back to something feral really quickly. Really quickly. A lot of us are the same way. We've been hurt so many times that the moment we get the least little bit burned, we revert back to feral really quickly. And it takes time. You know, I've had this one cat for 7 years. I bottle fed this darn thing. And she still acts as though somehow there's not going to be food in the dish at the end of the day, right? She still acts as though she doesn't know where her next meal is coming from. And you think to yourself, it's been 7 years, cat. You've never missed a meal yet. Surely you can trust me by now. But the thing is sometimes it's just ingrained too deep. And that's always going to be the way. And you just got to keep making those incremental little steps. And be wary, because sometimes the claws come out and they swipe. Do not pet the belly, ever. Not of the cat and not of the traumatized human, okay? Just don't do it. Especially not at church. That's harassment. But the truth is that the right relationships covenant, all humor aside, you know, it's our guide to helping ourselves through those moments where we might want to run away and go back to being feral. So page 1 tries to avoid conflict by making us aware of our own stuff and giving the other person the benefit of the doubt. But if that fails, we have page 2. And page 2 is healthy conflict, because we're not always going to agree. You know, Unitarians, ask any 2 Unitarians, you will get 4 opinions. So the very first thing that we have to do to have a healthy conflict is to differentiate between the person and the problem. And man, y'all are going to be so sick of hearing me say this by the time I leave this congregation. But it is not you versus another member. It is you versus the problem. And it's true, right? It's always us versus the problem. Right now, our problem is a good one. It's a good problem. The building is too small. We have too many people. It's a good problem. But the other problem is that we have a set amount of money to buy and build. So what are we going to do? How are we going to responsibly use that money? And I'm going to guarantee you that there are going to be people who have differing opinions on this, because that's who we are. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that the other person is your enemy. It just means that you have 2 different backgrounds with 2 different understandings, and you're coming at the problem from 2 different angles. We face all this together. So, first, remember always that it's us versus the problem, not us versus each other. Second way to fight fair is to have the process for difficult conversations. Now, we've been over this, and I'll go over it more, so I'm just going to race through it super quick so that I don't keep us away from coffee hour. But it's true, and this is what we're talking about when we say, you know, lift the lid before the pot boils over. First is to define the issue that you're dealing with, because a lot of times what we think we're talking about and what's actually being talked about are kind of 2 different things. Second thing is to name your feelings and know they're often from your past trauma, right? When we sold that building, so many people had feelings. And all those feelings are valid. Like, your feelings are valid, whatever they are. I'm not trying to tell you you shouldn't have your feelings. You should absolutely feel your feelings. But if they're from something in your past, that may or may not be relevant to what's going on in the present. So a good example of this is I struggled with selling the building, me personally, because I didn't grow up in a church home. I didn't really have one. We bounced from church to church to church every time my parents were seeking whatever they were seeking. And because of that, I never really felt those roots, right? So this idea of this church that's been in this location for 140, 50 years, that was really compelling. I really liked that. I liked that story. I liked those roots. I liked that idea. I loved those stained glass windows. But what I didn't love was the basement flooding every other week. And what I didn't love was the people that couldn't make it up the stairs. And I didn't love that so many of our folks couldn't be there because they couldn't walk across the street from the parking lot, right? So I had to know what the difference was between my feelings from my past stuff, which were valid, like they're actual feelings, but I had to realize that they didn't outweigh the need of the community. Now, I don't get to vote. I don't know if you guys all know that. So in Unitarian Universalist congregations, the minister gets voice but not vote. And the reason for that is twofold. One, because it's assumed that I have a position of power. I'm given this pulpit, and I'm allowed to talk about whatever the heck I want every single Sunday I'm here. So, because of that, I can try to influence things, right? Like I can try to move things one way or the other. And because of that, they say, no, you don't get to vote. I don't even get to vote on board meetings. I can suggest things, I can talk about how the congregation feels, I can talk about things I've heard, but I don't ever get to vote. So when we're talking about properties and land and stuff like that, I have no vote in this. The other reason that ministers don't get a vote is not only because they have power, but also because they're not there, right? I love you guys, and I wish I could stay in this congregation for 50 more years. But the truth of the matter is my body is falling apart, and I'm not going to be here that much longer. Even if I was here for the rest of my career, we're still talking a finite amount of time, whereas you guys will probably, hopefully, be here the rest of your lives. So the congregation makes decisions for the congregation because ministers come and ministers go. But you guys are the community. So when I'm talking about buying land, y'all, I really mean it when I say I have been hands off. I have not done anything in this process because this is your decision. I'm just here to make sure that we're fighting fair about it and then we're not letting past emotions hurt the present community. So here's the thing. You don't assume harm, you assume good intentions, you respect the other person, you don't talk mean or nasty or send flaming emails, all that stuff. You clarify what somebody said, because a lot of times people say stuff and it comes across in a way, but that's not really what they meant. And then you reflect with them on logical consequences. If you buy land that's at the bottom of a hill and there's a creek running through it, there's probably going to be a flood at some point. That's a logical conclusion. Doesn't mean it's an insurmountable obstacle. I have no idea if any of the land we're looking at has a creek. But, I'm talking about from my own looking at land and dealing with my own property, right, in Salem. Like, you buy a place that's got a lake on it, it's going to have beavers. Beavers? Beavers are industrious little creatures. So we have this beaver who really, really, really wants our lake to flood. Really wants it. So this beaver has built a dam, and we've knocked the dam down, and it's built the dam and knocked the dam down. And about 5 or 6 times of doing this, the beaver said, okay, heck with y'all, and it built 4 more dams down the stream. It literally went into like thickets of trees where we couldn't follow and built these giant dams because it's like, I am blocking off this 5 acres and this is wetland now. Beavers, man, they're a thing. So, logical consequence to your actions. If y'all buy something with a lake, check for beavers. I'm just going to put that out there. But realistically speaking, beavers aside, they are actually fantastic creatures and are the single largest creators of wetlands in the world. Did you know that? It's amazing. And the fact that this little fat rat can do that is really amazing. Because, we've almost flipped our tractor a couple of times trying to dig out this thing's dams. They're like concrete when they get those dams going. Anyway, I digress. But success is not in agreeing. Success is in understanding. Okay? When we vote in a couple of weeks, someone is not going to get their vote. Okay? When we voted on the building, not everyone got their vote. I want y'all to stay in the community. Just because the piece of land that you think is best doesn't win, doesn't mean the church hates you, doesn't mean that you should leave the church, does not mean that it might not have been the best piece of property. It means that the community went a slightly different direction as a whole, but your voice is still valued and your voice is still needed, and we still need you to build this community, even if it's a few doors down or a few blocks over from where you would have liked to have seen it. The importance of this is because as we go forward, There is no perfect piece of land. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the fact that in Kansas City, the Latter-day Saints Church has a chunk of land in Independence, Missouri, where they believe that Jesus is coming back, and it's the place where Jesus is going to come back to earth, and they have a temple built on it. Except it's owned by a splinter sect, and they're still fighting over this, like 100 and something years later, right? Because to them, that is the perfect lot, and that is Eden, and they're going to fight over it forever. Folks, it's not worth it, okay? We don't have that kind of dogma in this church. Whatever lot you pick, whatever the building looks like when we build, it's still home. It's not going to be perfect. Something is going to be wrong with it. Something is going to be the way you don't want it to. But I have seen churches split and be destroyed over the color of carpet in the nursery. 6-month-old babies really don't care. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, those carpets are kind of just a vague, splotchy color. It's not about finding the perfect plot or the perfect building. It's about finding something good enough that we can live with it. It's about building a building that's big enough that we can grow into it. And it's about remaining a good, loving community as we do the work. This is a big, scary choice. And we only have a finite amount of money. So it's scary to see that giant number and then realize that we're going to spend 3/4 or more of it, right? That's a really scary thing to do. Anybody who's ever bought a house knows how scary that is. When you look at these numbers and you're like, that's how many years of my salary? But scary doesn't mean we have to let our limbic systems take over, right? Scary means that we need to breathe. Don't let the downstairs brain win. There are no bears in the sanctuary. The goal here is to understand where we come from. The goal here is to remember that we're here not because of the decor. We're here not because of whether we pick this road or that road to be off of. We're here because our fundamental values align with these people. We're here because this is the place where we belong. And we can belong whether we're in a Masonic lodge, an ancient building that's falling apart in Alton, a steel pole barn in I don't even know where, whether we're meeting by the side of the road. Whatever it takes, our values will hold us together. And our values are what are drawing people to us in droves. Our values are what will keep us moving forward. What I want us to all know is that this is a place of hope, of love, and of friendship. It's 2 things that I want to mention super briefly, and then we'll call it a day. Covenantal things that we've agreed to do. One is to speak directly about what bothers me without deflecting, being passive-aggressive, or otherwise making it hard for people to guess what I am feeling or need. I used to be really bad about this. Still am sometimes. But my husband would ask me, what's wrong? And I'd be like, nothing, I'm fine. Now, none of you have ever done that, right? It's just me. Right, it's just me. Yeah. And none of you, when asked, how you felt about a decision, have ever done something along the, whatever. Right, don't do that, folks, okay? Just be honest. I am completely and totally pissed off right now is much more healthy for this congregation than a whatever. Just be honest. Be honest even if your honesty is not pleasant, but it's better than being passive-aggressive or deflecting. And none of us know what you're thinking. None of us know what you need. I do not read minds. I'm sorry. I missed that class in seminary. But really, if you don't tell me what you need, I can't help. And it's so hard when people get angry and upset because they're like, well, you didn't do something. And I'm like, I didn't know because nobody told me. So please, when you want your board to do something, when you want others in the congregation to do something, when you want me to do something, you have to tell us. Those are the kinds of things that will help. Asking for people to guess what is going on in your brain will just make everyone frustrated. Second thing, Put your name to all criticism, knowing that your voice is respected and welcomed, even if it is critical, but anonymous gossip and notes are destructive of trust and beloved community. I say this because if any of you have ever read comments on the internet, something about anonymity just makes people nasty. You know, just never read the comments, never ever talk about the comments. And the thing is I want people to understand that it's fine. Like, literally, I would rather you come up to me and say, I am mad at you about blank. Because then I know what the problem is, I know where I've screwed up, and I know what needs to happen for there to be reconciliation. But if I get a random note left on the pulpit, which has happened once or twice in my tenure here, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I have no idea who did it, or what they need, or what they're thinking, or where this is going, or if it's addressed to me. Sorry, I can't do anything about that. You know? Anytime a person, I would like to say, I hope that anytime a person has come to me with an issue, it's been fixed. Now, it doesn't mean that I've always been able to make it right in their opinion, but I've at least addressed it to the best of my ability. And it's not just me. Like, this isn't a me thing, like, oh, you hate the minister. But this is an everybody thing. You know? I have seen churches absolutely torn to pieces by the somebody says rule. Well, somebody's saying blah, blah, blah. Well, then, until they tell me, we can't fix it. And this is important because, like I said, the internet is full of examples of why anonymity is bad. Now, if you come to me and we have a private conversation about pastoral care, absolutely that's kept confidential. But confidentiality is different from anonymity. I hope everybody gets that distinction. You know, confidentiality is when you come to me in private and we have a private conversation. Anonymity is when nobody knows who this person is and they're just spewing stuff. Trust is easy to lose in a congregation, and we're small enough and we've had enough bad things happen that, you know, it's easy for that mistrust to come in. So again, be in right relationship. Know yourself, love others in the congregation. Don't be a jerk. You know, it's really pretty simple stuff. But it's also the simple stuff that takes a lifetime. There is a reason that Jesus said the number one commandment is love God and love your neighbor, because that is the hardest darn thing to do. Whatever your concept of the greater universe is, whatever your concept of yourself is or your neighbor is, it's really hard to do that. So really, it's kind of one of those, if we ever fix that piece, then we can go on to the next. But for now, let's look at this. Let's do that. Remember that in 50 years, no one will remember what building you voted for, what lot you voted for, whether you were on board or not with how much we spend. But what they will remember is that this is a community that made a difference because it truly cared about people and it truly welcomed each other and lived by its values. In other words, enlightenment is hard work, folks, so let's get to it. Amen, and blessed be. Our final hymn this morning is number 318, We Would Be One.
To
As Jesse passes around our offering basket, I want to remind everybody that if you need your pledge counted, please feel free to put it in an envelope. If you're not able to give as much as you would like, feel free to talk to Peg in the back. We'll get you to work because we have lots and lots of things that folks need to do as well. However, if this is your first time here, we want you to know that this service is our gift to you. You are under no obligation whatsoever to give. Please join with me in our offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. Thank you so much. All right, announcements. I have two. First of all, on Tuesday is the second of my classes on the Bible for liberal religious people. So welcome everybody. The link was in your newsletter, but if you for some reason don't have that, just email me and I'll get it to you, no problem. If you missed last week, that's perfectly fine. Alex is going to be getting it up on YouTube hopefully in the next few weeks, and so you'll be able to catch all the classes later on if you aren't able to make it for whatever reason. So that was announcement one. Announcement two. As I've said, I think probably a dozen times in the sermon today, we are going to be voting at some point very soon. So did you want to come and talk about that? Yeah. All right, Alex will come up and make the official announcement. The official announcement.
All right. So this should serve as your official, required by the bylaws that we voted on, 2-week notice. We are planning on, I believe, November 2nd. That's the week 3rd. If I can count the days, November 3rd, we are going to have a congregational meeting in order to vote on a property to pursue with the direction that we're going. I believe in the next week are going to be getting you all the details about what they are, so you're not just coming in and seeing a slideshow and voting right then. You're going to have probably a week to look things over and, go see a property, don't trespass, just look, and find information and be prepared to make that vote. So that should be exciting. I guess if you're not currently a voting member, you're going to talk about that? Oh, good, perfect. Well, yeah, Claudia's going to talk about that. So, cool.
Thank you, Alex.
2 weeks, it has to be gotten out in the newsletter because it has,
Yes.
and the newsletter deadline is today.
All right, so if anybody has anything for the newsletter, the deadline is today because our newsletter editor is going on vacation. All right, so yes, if you are not currently a member of this congregation, if you have not signed the membership book, but you would like to, so the process, there's a word, that we do is you need to sign the book in front of a board member, two board members. We also want you to do a pledge of time, talent, and or resources as you are able, and a new membership class with me. Because this vote is going to come before I can have a new membership class, if you want to vote, obviously sign, and then we'll schedule a new membership class for folks to go through as soon as possible after that. So yeah, I wanted to let folks know we will be doing that. I'm happy to schedule those whenever we have new members that would like to do that. But if you do want to go ahead and sign the book and join us up as members of our congregation, you can see Alex or Robin after service. Last but not least, are we breaking down today?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So today is a breakdown day. So if everybody could help by grabbing your stuff and whatever else you're physically able, we would love to have that extra help.
And don't forget, Wednesday is the get out the vote.
Yes, Wednesday, get out the vote. So show up here on Wednesday at
It's on the slide.
6 o'clock. Wednesday, get out the vote. 6 to 8. All right, so 6 to 8, yes. This is really important. So we're all going to just write postcards, and you're all going to, they're already posted and everything? Nope, just show up and write. All right, it's also potluck, so bring food. Yeah. Bring snackers.
Nothing messy is what postcards,
right?
So chili, pasta, right, exactly.
Yeah, least then they know a real person did it. It wasn't like some pre-printed thing, but you know. All right. So that's lots and lots going on. September and October have been incredibly busy months for us. I think the holidays are actually going to be less busy than these last couple of months for us, but who knows? All right, folks. Any other announcements that I'm missing? You all know where your plans are. So, all right, so breakdown immediately after this, class on Tuesday, thing on Wednesday. Let's do it. I invite you to join me in reciting our prayer as we extinguish our chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are the keepers of this flame until we meet again. May we all covenant with ourselves and each other that we will practice what we preach, love ourselves that we may love others, and that we will keep calling ourselves and each other back to the love at the center of all things, again and again. Amen, and blessed be.